Hello, this is Impact 2022. I am Nathaniel, and I am your host. And this is our continuing conversation where we talk about different issues from social change to current events to religious issues, just race issues, anything that can come um, up in the current events. And this is our opportunity to continue to have our conversation, to have your voices be heard. And in doing so, we encourage everyone who is watching to participate. Participate through typing your questions and your comments into the comment section. And so, as you have something and as we are able to see it, we'll be able to address it live and we'll be able to talk and continue the conversation. I always remind that it is a conversation. That means it goes both ways. So, it's not just me talking, it's you participating as well. And so, today is no different on this 2/22/22 day. A special day that we've had. Uh, we're going to go into a quick little explanation about a topic that just popped up. And so recently in Seattle, Washington, there was a ruling um, that the community made when it came to bicycles, regular old bicycles. And so what they had bicycles, and just like in many places, they have the bicycle law where you need to have a helmet on when you're riding your bike. And I know if you grew up like I grew up, most people didn't really have bicycle helmets when we were young. We were just out there just paddling around. But the law was very clear, and this is one of the more. This is one of the states that has some of the most bicyclists around. It's a very healthy city. Um, so they decided that they needed to examine whether or not they still needed the bicycle law. And the reason they needed to examine the bicycle law is because the enforcement that was done by law enforcement was shown to be racially discriminatory. And so, if you were a person of color and you had on a helmet, you were more likely to get stopped, more likely to get a ticket. And if you were a white person, you weren't. You were more likely just to be riding around without your helmet on. And so, the it was the Board of Health. So the King County Board of Health had to vote and decided that they wanted to repeal the law so that no one would have to wear bicycle helmets anymore. And so it's a win for, in the consideration of the people, they said it's a win for racial injustice or social change. Because what it does is it allows that police officers can no longer discriminate based on this particular rule. And so I'm going to read you a quote from what they said. The question before us today wasn't the efficacy of helmets. The question before us was whether a helmet law that's enforced by police on balance produces results that outweigh the harm that the law creates. And so just for those who may not really get what was said there, it is, you have to weigh two things. They didn't talk whether or not whether wearing a helmet was the right thing to do, because clearly it is. It saves lives. If you crash on a bike at those high speeds, or if a car or another vehicle crashes into you, it protects your head. I've seen it multiple times with my own eyes where people have crashed down and the helmet has helped their head. So it's not a question of whether or not there's value in the law there, but the question is, does that value outweigh the harm that is done to people of color who are being discriminated against because of the law? And so because the King County Board doesn't control the actions of law enforcement, what they do control is what laws get enforced. And this is not an isolated incident. There are laws throughout the country that are being reevaluated, not because of the content of the law, but because of the enforcement of the law. There's some drug charges that they're taking off of the table because they are unequally enforced or against people of color. And so the question of the general thought that we're here today for is, does that make sense? Does that make sense that in Seattle, where you are required to wear a helmet, you may have people who may get into some accidents. Now they no longer have to have helmets and may be severely injured or lose their life um, because they took away the law in order to protect people of color from incorrect policing. And so you're not solving the problem of the policing, but you are changing the situation. You're ameliorating the situation by getting rid of a law that actually is useful. The same thing they were talking about with a similar situation when they're talking about drug offenses, and they're saying, well, we're just going to take away some of the drug offenses, just let them, they're no longer crimes or enforceable crimes, and because they were unduly put on people of color. So let's take away the crime instead of going with the cause of the problem, which is the unequal treatment of people of color. We have a comment here, and it says, like in the Bible in regards to the law, the problem is not with the law, it's with the people, particularly the people who enforce the law. Yes. Yeah, and I think that's generally speaking, that's the issue that we have. So, for me personally, looking at it, you 100% understand that the law or the rule is not a problem for most people. Most generally speaking, people, understand laws like helmet laws and laws like seatbelt laws, that they're trying to protect people. And they're trying to protect people because, especially when you're young, you don't think about that kind of stuff. When you're young, you think you're invincible. So you're not like, man, I'm not putting on no seatbelt. But you have those laws there to save people's lives. But then you take those same laws away because they are being used as tools to harass and to abuse people of color. And so, and an example here in Virginia, one of the pushes and the moves was to make sure that there are two laws specifically when it came to motor vehicles. One was the seatbelt law and moving it from a primary offense to a secondary offense. And when they say primary offense is a reason that you can get pulled over. Where a secondary offense is if you were pulled over for something else, they then can give you an additional ticket for that, because they felt, partially for other reasons as well, but partially because they felt that it was being used as a tool for law enforcement to harass people of color. They could just roll up on someone, a person of color. You don't have a seatbelt on. All right, now I can pull this person over. I didn't really have a reason to, but I'm gonna pull them over because now I've got this green light too. The second one was the inspection sticker, and so that was another tool to use. So they would use the inspection sticker, and it was a disproportionate amount of people of color who were being pulled over. But does it make sense to just take away these rules? Does it make sense to take away these safety nets? Is that solving the problem? Got another one. Some people who violate the law are given warnings while others are given tickets. Yes, and that's the problem. So it's an unequal handling of justice. So it's taking away the rule solving the problem. Is that the right answer? From my standpoint, I kind of lean on it. I'm like, it's when people say that, it's an argument that's simple, similar to guns don't kill people, people kill people, or it's not this is a little different one, but they say it's not the dog that went out here and killed people. It was the people who trained up the dog. You're using the tool or the instrument in the wrong way. So do you just get rid of the instrument? And is that the move that we want to make? And if I don't know, because it may be the right answer. And so, but that's the decision that they came to in Seattle was to sit back and they said, well, if it's doing harm to people of color and it's being unfairly administered, then we need to get rid of it. But then won't they just unfairly administer something else would be the question that I would say. If the police, and not just the police, if the law enforcement law enforcement as a whole, is the system as a whole is unfairly treating people of color, then is breaking down the system or getting rid of the system going to fix the problems or just lead to other problems when the problem is we need to fix the law enforcement system? If you have a racist cop who will pull you over for not having your helmet on while you're riding a bicycle, and you take away the bicycle law, the cop's still racist. And so it doesn't solve anything. It just gives them one less tool to use. As long as we have racism, sexism, etc., we will continue to have the problems. And I think that's what it is. That's what it is. I don't think you can solve the problems of racism, sexism, and etc., as it's put here, by tinkering with little laws here and there. You know, in Seattle, I can't sit back and applaud them because the first time a little kid who is out here riding his bike gets hurt and he didn't have a helmet on, people are going to be looking to the King County Board and they're going to say, hey, why did y'all take away this law? You know, why did you allow people not to have helmets anymore? You know, you're helping Black people not get harassed, but at the same time, you're hurting those same people in a sense if they get into an accident or if they get into a situation. Now, let's be real. Like I said, when I grew up, I didn't even own a helmet most of the time. And then when I did own a helmet, it was so uncomfortable that I didn't wear it when I was riding a bike. You know, now it's a little different. I ride the bike with my son, and he definitely always has the helmet on. And I still don't have a helmet on. That's just because we don't have another helmet for myself. But yeah, so let's be real. Helmets aren't a big deal. They're not a big deal. So taking away the helmet law, I get it. It's not. It's an extra law that they were probably using just to make a little money here and there. But it does protect people. But I think that puts us down a slippery slope. Anything can be used for racism. Let's be real. Religion has been used for a lot of racist activities, a lot of sexist activities. Do we say, let's just move that out the way so that we can protect the groups? Or do we try to fix the actual problem of the people who are in power or who are committing racist acts or try to get into their minds and help them to realize that that's not the way to be? And so I really this one is interesting. It's a problematic, not problematic, but it's an interesting decision to make. And it's important because these decisions are being made repeatedly over and over again with lower level offenses that have been historically used to the detriment of people of color. And now some of these laws are being removed, even in different situations. They're removing prostitution laws. New York has moved to ban that, no longer a criminal offense, because it was unduly being punishing to the young women, but yet it was not appropriately being balanced to the men. And so there was the difference of enforcement there. So if you were a female caught up into that, you were prosecuted. If you're the male, you're pretty much let go. So is the answer then to allow that to just go? New York and some other places have decided, yes, just allow it to have a free reign. But then what you're doing is you keep allowing things to happen, but we're never fixing the justice system. We're never fixing a system that has been established and maintained to where it can harm people based on gender, based on race. Because what I believe is going to happen is they'll just find new ways to be racist. They'll find new ways to be prejudiced. They'll find new ways to just unfairly punish people. And so until we fix that part, or until we even address that part directly and not indirectly with these other laws, I think we'll have a problem. And so I don't disagree. I don't disagree that some of these lower level offenses should be taken away because, again, they're being used and abused. But I do think that we gotta be careful about what we're doing here. It's not a canceling thing where we're canceling out laws, but we can't just make everything okay, um, so that nothing can be, so that everybody will be okay. We can't make everything okay so that everybody will be okay. We can't, decriminalize all drugs and then not think that there are going to be some subsequent problems. And so it's a strong discussion topic. It's a strong discussion topic, and it's in your area wherever you may be. Again, like I said, here it was the seatbelts. Here it was the inspection stickers, and so those items have now been pushed off. And so the question becomes, does the benefit does the benefit of people's safety, does the benefit of the safety of the greater community of everyone, um, taking that away, does it outweigh the harm that has been done to people of color? And let's be clear, one thing that none of these things do, it does not hold anybody responsible for the activities that they've participated in or that they would participate in if these laws were in place. And I think that's the important part, is that we definitely have to, one, hold people responsible, and two, um, make sure that we fix the overall system. All right. But this was a short one today. We will be back next week. Hopefully, we have some guests lined up to go in actually to some more topics and some deeper topics as the time goes along. Also, as a reminder, all this month, and it's been outstanding all this month, on Thursdays, been talking about fasting for Thursday Thirst. And so, if you are available every Thursday, 7 o'clock, please join us for Thursday Thirst. Again, thank you for being here. We'll be back next week. I got one more comment. I'm going to throw that in there before we go. The problem that we have is the notion of individual rights. How far can we take individual rights? Should I have the right to mistreat, abuse those who I don't like and that I don't respect? That's a good one, because I do think that's always been one of the the battles for some folk, that they want to have the right to do whatever they want to do, and that includes doing good and doing bad. Um, and so you don't want the government, you don't want um, organizations, you don't want your employer, you don't want anybody to tell you what you should be able to do, because you have the right, and you have the right to do whatever you want to do. But that also includes people who want to have the right to be able to make hurtful comments towards other people, the right to be, belligerent, be sexist and racist and harm people. One of the things that we're talking about is bullying nowadays, especially in the cyber world, of whether or not you have the right to bully, the right to mistreat, because you have individual freedoms, and so you want to be able to do what you want to do. That's a weird one, because at the end of the day, people always want to talk about freedom, but you also have the right to be respected, and that's when we talk about our constitutional rights, and we talk about our Bill of Rights. As individuals, you have the right to be respected. You have the right to not be treated with racism and sexism and other types of prejudice. You have the right to live a life of respect. And so, as we always talk, and especially as we talk as Christians, it's more or less for us the right, but more the responsibility, based on our teachings. We have the responsibility to respect one another. We have the responsibility not to be racist and sexist and harm people. And you're like, well, it doesn't really, there's some debate on how much it says you don't need to be racist. or sexist. But what it does clearly state is that we don't need to be harming individuals. And if the things that we do and those activities are harming individuals and people are saying that, then we need to treat them with love and with respect. And so, yeah, everybody else can talk about rights, but I think for us as Christians, we have to talk about our responsibilities. And our responsibilities because we are Christian. That was a good one. Great comment there. Great comment. All right. All right. Well, we don't have any more coming through. And so that'll be it for today. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. I appreciate all the great comments that came through. Again, I appreciate you joining us. This is Impact 2022. We're here every week, and we'll be here next week. And so, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's right. Yep. All right. Have a good one, and good night.